Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to game number 3 of this series from IEM. This is a best of 5, and it is going to be LGIMMvp spawning as our red Terran player up at the 3 o'clock position, and his opponent is going to be our blue Zerg player at that 7 o'clock position. It is going to be roxkisSlivko, and this is take number 4 of the introductions because I have been messing it up over and over. I just can't get my brain wrapped around the intros today for some odd reason. I will either just be like, ladies and gentlemen, this is a coffee break. And oh yeah, I have to restart. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and this is going to be a series between Destiny. Crap! No! And so, here, 4 or 5 takes later, here we are, finally going to get to cast this freaking game. And let me tell you, folks, both of these players have played. I would say they've both had an incredible game, and they've both had kind of a game where it's been meh for them. The first game, Slivko pretty much just kind of rolled over MVP with one slight mishap at his 4th base. Excuse me. And in game number 2, MVP pretty much just rolled over Slivko, and there were no mishaps. I mean, it was just utter decimation by MVP. For the first time here, MVP not going to be opening up with CC first, and Slivko, seeing that there's nothing on top of that ramp, immediately going to turn around, scouts this 2 racks, and that is going to be no surprise for Slivko. I would not be surprised to see a spawning pool very shortly. There we go, spawning pool getting thrown down. In fact, that's actually just absolutely standard coming out of Slivko. Might see a few extra leans in the early game to deal with this I wouldn't even call it proxy 2 racks. This is more like a forward 2 racks coming out of MVP here. So MVP not going to open up with that CC first this game. Wants to do something a little bit more aggressive. And who's to blame him? Sometimes I guess CC first can get a little bit boring. A lot of SCVs coming out across the map, probably going to try to throw down a bunker somewhere. And there it is, bunker on the low ground, just outside of this natural expansion. Where are the drones? There they are, getting pulled off the line. Now this SCV probably not going to be able to live for all that long. Getting all the drones and just going to target fire that bunker. I like that decision, as he knows, Slivko knows there are going to be more SCVs on the way. And there they are, one Marine, 3 SCVs, more Marines being rallied across the map right now. And Slivko just going to be able to pretty much try to hold out until these Zerglings get on the map. There are 8 on the way right now, and I think that he will hold this just fine. There is 1 drone very low on health. Oh, that 1 drone does go down. 2 more bunkers being established now. Now the Zerglings are on the map, though, and that is probably just about going to be the end of any sort of aggression out of MVP. 8 Zerglings here, 4 more on the way. Queen coming out at the natural expansion as well. This has been mopped up beautifully by Slivko. And MVP now on the retreat back home. Both players actually handled that very well. MVP really didn't lose all that much in that engagement either, which is a pretty big deal in this early game. I mean, if he lost, like every single Marine and all his SCVs, Slivko would just be able to march across the map with a bunch of Zerglings to try to do a little bit of damage. There are quite a few Marines still on the map, though. In fact, quite a few Marines still on Slivko's side of the map. Slivko falling back, has a Spine Crawler on the way. Quite a few Zerglings and a Queen down here as well. And I don't really see MVP doing all that much damage. There we go, MVP once again falling back, still rallying Marines across the map. Now has stopped his double production and going to probably transition into something a little bit more standard. I would say MVP definitely kind of came out on the losing end there, as I think he only killed like 1 drone, 2 drones. He lost a couple of workers himself, so that evened out. Plus he invested quite a bit in this little attack on come over to the units lost tab. We do see maybe a little bit more for MVP. I guess in the end, he isn't really that far behind. His expansion is quite a bit later, though, so we are going to be having massive rounds of drones coming out before we have SCV. And I like his response to go ahead and throw down this extra command center. This is pretty standard in a Terran play, especially Terran versus Zerg, just getting that 3rd command center just to pump out SCVs. But that is going to help him come back just a little bit, and once again he'll be able to take his 3rd base pretty much whenever he feels ready. Not going to be seeing that suave mech opening that we saw in the last game. I think suave is like my word for casting. I tend to use that pretty often, I think. Not going to be using that nice mech opening that we saw in the last game that opens up with Hellion Banshee and then goes into that mech play. Instead, we're just going to see a 2 racks going up for another racks or 2 here. Does have double gas in his main base, though. Just got that established. Would be interesting to see where he goes with that. Going to drop the factory. Wouldn't be surprised to see a tech lab on one of these barracks as well to go ahead and start getting some bio upgrades out onto the field. Slivko actually going for a low. Never mind. I thought that he was taking gases number 3 and 4. The reason you'll see a lot of Zerg players now taking the gases at their expansion before in their main base is, once again, if you lose this natural expansion, then you do have a little bit extra in the base. Also, another great reasoning for that is the Terran player. Let's say the Terran player runs in here with Hellions and starts picking off drones and sees these 2 gases, and suddenly he'll go, oh crap, he has 4 gases. He probably has a lair and, you know, a spire on the way or something. I need to fall back and get defenses up. Well, joke's on that player, because there are no gases in the main. That's also a little bit of metagaming there we're seeing out of Slivko, and I love it. Going to go ahead and get his 3rd base down quite a bit later than he has been in the couple of past games, but again, that is because of that 2 racks play out of MVP. So if nothing else, MVP did halt the expansion timing of Slivko by quite a bit. Might actually be able to force the cancel on this. Where are the Zerglings? They are not coming over. They know that they cannot engage that, and just going to force the cancel there and lose that drone. That's really bad for Slivko, actually, as his next base, his 3rd base, is going to be very, very late onto the map here. We are getting that Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade for the Hellions. Looks like a reactor going down on this factory. A lot of Hellions going to be coming onto the field, actually. This is somewhat interesting, actually. That's going to be... I really can't say anything but a lot of Hellions, I suppose. I assume C-Tech will be following up with that Infernal Pre-Igniter, and we will probably be seeing MVP transition over into mech play, just getting there by a slightly different route. 3rd base now being established once again for Slivko. Was forced, actually, you saw the remains of a Vespian geyser, an extractor going down on that geyser. That's because there was a marine stationed at this base. Slivko about to lose that drone, morphed it into an extractor, and then came over and made a hatchery with it. Going to be much more difficult for MVP to take out this base this time, as there are banelings coming onto the field now. Lair Tech just now finishing up, and we'll no doubt be seeing the centrifugal hooks coming onto the field as well. Marines about to get picked off by a group of Zerglings. Oh, never mind. That's a lot more Marines and Hellions than I thought there were. Zerglings actually going to be falling all the way back. There are roaches over here, however, which is going to make it very difficult for MVP to break this. A couple of Hellions push up the ramp, do see the forces of Slivko there, decide that it is not worth it, and goes ahead, just falls back. Glial Reconstitution is coming onto the field, which is that roach movement speed, as well as melee attack level 1 and carapace level 1, which is going to put the upgrades for Slivko a little bit ahead of the upgrades of MVP. This is the style that we saw Slivko actually play in his first game. Gonna go ahead and get a lot of roaches out onto the, pardon me, not a lot of roaches, get a decent number of roaches out on the field. We're going to see him transition into Infestor, no doubt, as well, as soon as he can get this 3rd base up and running with these 2 Vespian geysers going. We have the centrifugal hooks for the banelings. We're gonna have some Zerglings on the field as well, just to, you know, I mean, they're just pretty much a good unit all around. And for the most part, I guess actually it's kind of this awkward, both armies countering each other. I think MVP is going to have a slight advantage in the army composition, as he's going to have the siege tanks and the Infernal Pre-Igniter Hellions to deal with the banelings before they can really get up onto that bio ball. And now we're going to have Thors coming onto the field as well, which is going to make it difficult for the roaches to really do all that much damage. And the Thors, they are countered actually by Zerglings, but again, the Infernal Pre-Igniter Hellions, the sieged up siege tanks, I think Slivko might have a slight disadvantage in that army composition, unless, of course, you know, he can hit before any of that gets up onto the field. A lot of banelings on the way. There is going to be a slight movement change in the roaches. It's a small force going to be coming up around this side of the map here. Poking up that ramp, sees the 2 barracks there, decides just to push with one big army. Not all the Hellions are over here right now. However, the siege tanks are in position to deal with this. Looks like we might just be trying to see the snipe on that command center. Centrifugal hook now complete. The bust on that supply depot. Banelings rolling in, not getting any of the SCVs, not getting any of the Marines, just going to be blowing up on the tanks and a couple of the buildings. So this attack not going to be maybe the most effective. Roaches going to get cleaned up here, did force the liftoff of the command center, but not really doing all that much damage. MVP had a very nice reaction there, got all the SCVs out right on time, went ahead and just kind of gathered his forces back as an natural expansion, I suppose. There is the second wave coming in for Slivko, though. Did force a shot off onto those Marines by the siege tanks, but not really doing that much damage once again. Come over to that workers killed. Only 14 killed by Slivko. I think he had an opportunity to do more damage. And MVP actually sitting at that 60 harvester mark, which is just about where you want to be as a Terran player with mules. So that actually, you could almost say, almost did MVP a little bit of a favor there in clearing up a little bit of supply for his mech coming on into this game. Thors are onto the field. They were not revealed in that previous battle. Where are the Thors? Oh no, the Thors got cancelled. He actually canceled the Thors for some reason. I saw two in the production tab earlier. Don't exactly know why. Maybe panicked and tried to get a couple extra units out. I'm not exactly sure the reasoning of that. Going to continue to rally units in by accident. Did lose a roach there. And now realizes his mistake and redoes his rally point. Going to go ahead and get a fourth base coming on the field. Slivko knows that he does not have the units right now to be able to deal with the army composition or to break the line of MVP, who is in a great position right now with the blue flame Hellions and a lot of siege tanks. Weapons are level 2 and plating level 2 coming on the field as well for MVP, which is going to put him about-ish on par with Slivko. It's always kind of awkward when you have the Zerg player going for melee attack upgrades for the Zerglings and the Banelings, and then not really getting the missile attack upgrades, but the Roaches still have the Carapace, and it's kind of hard to compare upgrades in that right. Hellions are going to be trying to get a little bit of map awareness here, keeping an eye on the 5th base for Slivko, which is not going down yet, but he's going to want to know when that is going down. I like the little bit of creep thread here from Slivko as well. He has a few extra overlords, so you may as well just position them around the map, get a little bit creep for your army, which also helps you get a little bit of map awareness. This also makes nice little rally points for these roaches to come in and try to take out the Hellions. There are a lot of Hellions on the map. 15 Hellions right now, and more on the way. Thor's now coming onto the field. And that's going to be a nice little army composition. Fungal Growth does go down on top of those Hellions. They are not going to be able to get these infestors. They are just going to die instead. One more Fungal Growth. Not going to use it. Nope. Those Hellions are just going to get picked off by the roaches. But Hellions on the high ground here are going to roast away a few drones. Meantime, Hellions trying to come over here, but too many Zerglings, too many Banelings. Those Hellions are going to go down, and these Hellions on the south side are going to be taken out, or at least pushed away by the roaches. Hellions actually going to be coming over into the middle line, going to be able to one-shot drones with this number of Hellions, getting quite a few drones there, actually. And that is going to allow MVP to go ahead and establish a 4th base. This is cleaned up, but quite a few drones have gone down now. 21 drones killed. That Spire is on the way. Hive Tech is on the field as well, so it looks like we are going to be having Broodlords, but I think those Broodlords might be coming out a little bit late, as this army for MVP is now ready to push out across the map. 2-2 is finished up. This timing coming just a little bit later than it did in the previous game, as that game actually wrapped up at the 17:30 point. MVP just a little bit behind because he did go for a slightly more aggressive opener. Not a big deal because he still has a vastly superior army to the army of Slivko, going to be pushed down into the 4th base here. I don't know if Slivko is going to be able to hold this with the siege tanks on the high ground. This is kind of like that middle base on Antigua Shipyard. Very difficult to hold. Slivko is going to have problems getting up onto the high ground, and we can see he's pulling his drones back, and now just going to plain flat out evacuate that base. Going to try to get the army that is over here on the ramp. However, Thors are in a very good position. Banelings nowhere to be found, actually. They're trying to drop a lot of infested Terrans, going to force the siege tanks to shell themselves, but going to unsiege and fall back a little bit. This 4th base, I would be surprised if this lived. Where is the ground army really for Slivko? Once again, you really need the Zerglings and the Banelings to help out with this army. Even if the Hellions do help mop that up quite a bit, they can add a very, very nice little bit of upfront damage, and then you can remacro the army behind that. I don't know if that made sense, but it did in my mind. Great positioning by MVP here to go ahead and pick this off in pretty much the best posture possible. Going to force a few infested Terrans to be dropped here. MVP just going to fall back. That's no big deal. Roach is going to be coming up trying to target fire down. Actually, not even target firing these Thors. There we go. Now finally target firing the Thors. More infested Terrans going down. Siege tanks unsieging over here. Not going to quite be able to pick off that 4th base. Slivko pretty much doing everything he can here. Actually getting a nice little surround with these roaches coming up from both angles here, but not going to have enough to clean up this army. and I still think MVP can just kind of push up and take this base out. And in fact, look at this remacroed army back here. More Thors, more siege tanks coming on the way. Vikings as well start picking off overlords and any sort of corruptor or broodlord play that would be coming onto the map, which is not coming onto the map because the greatest fire just now being started. This third base now, pardon me, the fourth base now does finally fall. MVP with a commanding lead in this game, going for these 3-3 upgrades. Roach is not as upgraded as they need to be, and there's the GG from Slivko in game number 3. And MVP, I just want to point out, had a fourth base, had a fifth base on the way as well. He was just winning in all facets of this game. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and thank you for joining me here on the CoffeeCast. We have game number 4 on the way. MVP is up 2-1 over Slivko in this best-of-5 series. Is Slivko going to be able to win the next game and bring us to an ace match? That's for me to know and you guys to find out. So be sure to check out game number 4. Click that subscribe button. Click the comment button. There is no comment button. Comment below. You know what I mean. And I will be back with game number 4 in just a couple of seconds here.